Hello and welcome to StratoCast, a Battletech podcast from the UK. My name is Stuart Strategos Level 3 and I run events for the Battletech UK South East group. And we'll be looking at a product review today of the Thunderhead Studios forward deployment base and the forward base maps. Okay, so the assembly is complete, and as you can see, it took about 3 or 4 minutes just to all put together. I've put it together exactly how it is on the map, but there are a couple of alternative configurations that you can do. Oh, just got this extra building over here. So this is a kind of complete reproduction of the map, and you have these 7 base plates which form our base of the forward base, and that raises up by 1 level there. And those are probably the most difficult things to print on a PLA printer because some of them are quite large, and as I was just getting used to using the 3D printer, actually making sure that they're all very leveled is really important, and making sure they all come out straight. This one in the middle has come out a little bit wonky, so it just pop up a little bit, but otherwise if you get them really level they can come out really good. And then we've got the wall segments here. Now there are several different ways to approach the walls. I decided to print the walls as separate pieces, so each individual piece is a separate unit. You can actually print the walls directly onto the foundations. Now I kind of don't like doing that for 2 reasons. One, it makes it a longer print, but the second reason is because I actually like using the walls. So the walls are really useful for other tables to make different compounds and different things. And also if a wall is destroyed, you can then remove that wall and take it away, and that would be an excellent kind of scenery reminder that that bit of wall has been destroyed. I've even taken some of these walls and partially printed them and then put a little bit of polyfiller on them to create ruined walls, so I can replace these bits of ruined walls as the battle progresses. There are several different elements to the walls. You've got these very simple straight walls. You've got these walls here, which can go across hexes, and there are 2 types depending, and you can see on this back row, you've got the ones that kind of go in and out of the hexes as it goes across. And then you've got the towers, of which there are several different ones. You've got tower ends, you've got towers for corners, you've got tower through, you've even got a T-junction tower here. And actually, when I use this, I tend to replace this panel here with an extra tower as well. One of the things I did to try and make this much easier to put together, and you probably noticed that, is to actually take some pens and to actually put markings on them. So for instance here, got HD for hardened level 3, because this is level 2 and that's level 1, so it's hardened level 3, and the map coordinate which corresponds to the below map, so it actually helps you work out map coordinates if you need that for artillery or different things. And then for instance for the buildings, I've actually gone around and done the outline of the buildings, and again written in the map hexes and written in the overall height of the structures to help that. And then the helipad, I've just stuck on the helipad there, and the roads all come as part of it. Now this is actually the 1st edition version of this. The 2nd edition version is slightly different. The buildings are mostly the same. The walls though have a feature where you can interlock them, which can be good and bad. I mean, I kind of like it because it stays together, and one of the problems with playing on this is you could knock the walls, and as you can see they can easily go out of alignment, but because they all kind of shift around. But the good thing is with the walls not being locked together is you can easily remove bits of them, and it's much easier to kind of put them together in different ways. Now, one thing I'm missing from this, it must be in another box, is I'm missing another little ramp here, because you've got these 2 ramps. And these ramps have been redone, so they're much easier to print and much more stable, because they are a little bit more difficult to print. And also the outside areas have been slightly redone as well, just to make them look a little bit better. It all nicely fits on this mat, although you have to jiggle it around a bit. This bit here is still a bit too high, but it generally fits really, really well onto the hexes. It's just the right size. As we go through the buildings, we've got here the mech bay. I really like the mech bay. I use this a lot in different scenarios. It's got 2 big hangar doors, 2 kind of recovery cranes, a nice kind of loading area at the top. Not sure what that is. Got nice little doors here, and so it's an ideal piece of scenery to have a mech bay anywhere. In actual fact, I'll try and keep a couple of these printed, and I always put these down in different scenarios wherever I want a mech bay. I kind of like this more than say the Sigma mech bay, because this is more map scale, and you can imagine here you could fit 4 mechs in this mech bay. I'm just going to put that there, so a nice mech hangar. So it's always important to realise the kind of difference between playing map scale and playing mech scale. So these are a map scale scenery. You've got a control tower here, which is a nice easy control tower, and I use it again quite a lot. You've got that kind of 3-level main control tower and 2 auxiliary buildings there, and again it's quite useful for other maps. So if I'm doing the airbase areas, and often I can use this as a strategic objective. And you can see there's a problem, you know, about just kind of like fiddling and fitting it back together. And as you do that, you kind of knock things together. So it can be a bit fiddly, this map. You've got a vehicle, what's generally said as a vehicle bay, or it might just be an infantry bay. It's not really a vehicle bay, because it's not got vehicle doors, and it's more just an infantry or just general purpose building just there. Got nice windows. Again, not painted these the best. I usually just haven't got an airbrush. I usually just paint them a nice grey spray paint, and then I use just basically put some different colours on them. And then finally, one of my favourite buildings here is the mech repair facility, and this is great. I like using this a lot. A bit dusty there. Comes together in several pieces. You can put this together, and you can actually even just put a mech in there, and it's a great set piece for any table where you're basically going to have a repair bay. I'm going to put this back, and finally the 2 last pieces of scenery are very simple but quite effective generator building, and the comms towers, of which there are 2 of, which then go on either side, this light 15 buildings. How do I use this in game scenarios? Well, it's really, really great for game scenarios. We usually set all of the buildings have their own things. You've got basically, this is a heavy building where you can use the optional rules and tack ups for the hangar rules. You've got this as a medium building, so CF 40, and then this is a heavy building here, and I think this one we put as a medium building, and then the walls aren't actually labeled as what they are, so we basically use them as hardened buildings with a construction factor of 150, and that makes them very, very tough. But also, if you use the fortress rules, they only take half damage, and so this makes the actual walls really, really tough to destroy. This is one of the official tack ops rules, where you can basically have different types of things like hangars or fortress. So these count as fortress walls. And then you can actually use the optional rules in that for doing the turrets. Now, later on, Thunderhead Studios actually made casts for turrets, made sculpts for turrets. So you can actually print different turrets off, and they actually fit into these. I haven't had much success printing them because they're much better, I think, on resin printers than PLA. They're quite tricky to print with a PLA printer because of the lower resolution, I guess, of the PLA printer, because they're quite small sculpts. But they do fit straight onto these kind of lift areas here. The other thing I do quite a lot when I'm playing with this is to set a strategic objective of the generator building over here. So I usually say that this generator building has to be destroyed. And if you destroy the building, that cuts power to the base. And that means, for instance, the energy weapons on the turrets can't be used, or it would mean that the turrets can't be turned. And that makes it a very good strategic objective for games. And we've had games either where we've put 2 map sheets together where people are assaulting the map sheet, or 3 map sheets. I like doing this on a 3x2 map sheet. And then we also use a rule where this area here, where it's raised up, is actually a sheer cliff surface, which basically means that vehicles can't go up one level because it's a sheer drop. So the only way vehicles can get in and out is through here, but mechs can jump up onto that. The actual overall painting, again, is just generally it's done with spray primer, but then there was a lot of sponging effect done on this. So where basically you just take a sponge in different shades of grey, and all of the walls have basically had that sponging effect, and then a bit of dry brushing just to accentuate these. The actual overall design of the walls isn't really changed much in the new edition other than the connectors to slot them together, but they're very good again for things to land on them. They've got quite good balance. I mean, the whole thing about Hextech terrain is it's designed for things to be able to actually interact, and you be able to put mechs on those surfaces. So any particular hex, like this hex or this hex, as long as your mech is on a flat base, if it's on a kind of indented base, a bit difficult. If it's on a flat base, it should be able to balance nicely on those particular areas. The walls can be a bit tricky because I think the balance is a bit precarious, but most of the other things it's very easy to do. Now the last thing to say about this is that there is another set that's just similar to this called the forward, so it's called the River Com Center set, which is very similar idea. And that's remember what I was going to say is the roads. My other one I did darker than this, but this one I did, and I just used pens, what we call acrylic pens, to paint the lines and to paint the dots in. That makes it very much easier. And I used the same acrylic pens for doing all the lines here. So the maps these are on actually come from the Grasslands map pack, and it's Grasslands map pack forward base, which is this one, but this is the actual battle mat from Catalyst, and this battle mat contains the forward base map and the open terrain 2 map, which I don't have the hills for. That's something I'm going to be printing soon. And then on the other side, it's got the lunar surface map, and they're great maps. They really are. They're nicely thick. They're nicely surfaced. These I've been using them for a while. They don't really suffer from much wear. They're not fraying at the edges at all, so there's no problems with that. They're very bright and vibrant, but they are exactly the same as the maps. The one thing I will say if you're using battle maps is this line here, I call it the kind of interline, the 16 line here, has nothing on it because it would be the map edge. And so you do get problems in games where players just tend to send mechs down the middle. So what you can do is take your cardboard stock and then use that to add in some extra woods, or add in some water features, or even add in extra levels to avoid that, because otherwise the scenery becomes irrelevant because people just go down the seam of the map. That's what I remember it's called. We always call these map seams, where you put 2 maps together, and it's really important to put some scenery down the map seams to help make sure it's a more fair and balanced game, and you don't just have a parade of mechs going down the map. All of this fits together in a nice box very easily. So I put actually all of the bits of wall actually fit nicely in one of these made in China filament boxes. And I tend to keep the filament boxes, but they work quite well for storing things in. So this is the boxes the PLA filament comes in. And there's the other one. I'll just get that. There we go. So that's the other part. And the only other thing to really say is that this has actually been played with for the past 3 years, and so it's actually really showing a lot of it's quite durable. So it's been used, it's been set up, it's been used for different things, not just for the forward base. I think the only thing that's really bad about my print is particularly just this little bit of lift here, because I did have some problems when I was setting up that I wasn't leveling. I was a bit of a novice at leveling my leveling my build plate, and it didn't always come out brilliantly, and that creates some problems. And also, at first, when I was using my Ender 5, I was printing with the bed that it came with, which is the flexible one. Later, I upgraded to glass, and that makes such a difference. If there's something I can recommend, it is to use the glass bed straight away. It's only £20, and when you're dealing with layers of 0.1 millimeters, any slight imperfection in the metal bed is enough to throw things off, but the glass is perfectly flat. And also it's auto adhesive, which is really nice. So when it's hot, it sticks, and when it's cool, it just basically pops off. I actually destroyed my flexible bed when I tried to pop something off, and it took off a section of the bed with it. With my flexible bed, I had to resort to things like using glue sticks, which was a common tactic people used, and actually putting glue sticks over the base to help maintain the adhesion. But I've not had to do anything like that when using the glass bed. It just makes sure it's perfectly level and it automatically sticks. So as I said, this is the forward deployment base set, and it goes with the forward base map. It's from Thunderhead Studios. The PDFs are available on their website for I'm going to say $16.99 if I remember rightly. You can buy just the structures without the base plates for $9.99 as the STLs only if you want to print them. And there are also several things in the US, such as Fortress Minis and Ares Miniatures, that now are starting to stock these. You can actually buy them in the shops there. And in the UK, you can go to Mighty Minis UK. It's mighty-minis-uk.co.uk, and they've got that on sale currently for £80, so 80 Great British pounds. And that's, of course, everything high quality printed. But if you are someone who's really interested in printing stuff, or you want to buy a 3D printer, and you remember this is the first major project I had to print, it shows you it's not that difficult to do. Once you've got your printer and you've got it set up, you could print this quite easily on an Ender 5 or an Ender 3. The Ender 5's got a slightly bigger build plate and is slightly superior. And I think if I had to go and buy a printer again, I'd buy an Ender 5 Plus, because it's a bit more stable than the Ender 5. But mine was £300, but you can get an Ender 3 now for about less than 200, and probably get the Ender 5 for less than that, because that was the price about 4 years ago. So overall, two great products. Definitely would recommend buying or printing the forward base. You can get so much use out of this in scenarios and games, and also even if you're not playing with the whole base, you can break it down to its components, and you can use those components separately to build little bases, or just use the buildings separately or print more of them. And then the battle mats, which are great quality, very durable, very vibrant, great colours, and keep really well, and don't have those disadvantages that you have with the paper mats, such as seams and wear and tear. The only thing you have to be careful with these is make sure that if you're going to play a game, make sure you roll them in the correct way the day before, so that when you come to them, they don't turn up at the edges. As long as you roll them in the correct way that you want, they're absolutely fine. Otherwise, you end up with the edges coming up. But this one I've rolled with this on the outside, so it doesn't roll up on the edges. But if I turned it over to the lunar side, it would roll up on the edges. The lunar side, by the way, is great if you want to put it together with the Alien Worlds lunar map with the lunar base. I've done that a couple of times. The vacuum rules really suck or blow, one of the two, but they are really fun and insane when things start breaching. You can see that they have redesigned these. These don't look like this anymore, and you can see one part of the problem is that they do become a bit brittle, and these bits can break, but the new version is different, so they have managed to fix that and make them a little bit better. But they're designed like this so that you could stand a mech on them. That's one of the great things about the Thunderhead Studio stuff. It's designed for gameplay, not just to look good, but to actually for mechs to interact and move around. One last thing, if you really want to go all in and modifying this, I've seen some great modifications where people have actually drilled holes into the foundations and have mounted magnets in them and have magnetized the entire wall structure. honestly can say I'm not sure I've got the patience to do that, but credit to those people I've seen them do that. That is absolutely great. And it means as long as you get the magnets the right way, which is important, all you have to do is basically snap everything to that, and it helps keep everything in place. Because it can be the case you knock this and then it knocks everything out of the way, and that can be a pain, but they do look absolutely great. And until next time, then we'll look at another piece of scenery. We'll be doing some different ideas. Happy to get feedback on the contents of this podcast. I know the last one was quite popular, so I thought I'd go back to basics and go to one of the first things I printed, and really give a big shout out to both Catalyst Game Labs for these great battle maps. This one's Battle Map B, Grasslands, Luna, or the Lunar Grasslands, and to Thunderhead Studios for putting together some brilliant products for that are compatible with the BattleTech official maps, or you can use them separately. I use them quite often separately. Till next time, see you there.